This is my much anticipated Christmas dress. I have been hearing from y'all you want to see this make, so here she is. It's been a long time since I made a classic cotton dress for myself, and you'll see it wasn't without its challenges, but might as well dust off the old bike sooner than later, so let's get sewing. Alrighty, I'm going to use this vintage Vogue pattern to construct my Christmas dress, which is great since it has this bralot option, that fancy little jacket. My plan is to combine the sleeveless dress with a winter bralot, so the outfit will work for Christmas, but also I can continue to wear this dress into spring and summer. Multitasking, it's what us mamas do best, right ladies? So that stupid printer's driving me nuts. Sorry about the audio, but I don't have all the pattern pieces. So, scratch that idea, blah, I know it really kind of sucks, but oh well, the world will keep turning, so I go through my other patterns trying to figure out where to go from here. Eventually, I land on this vintage number. To my memory, I've only made it once before, and yes, I was a baby. I begin to attempt to cut this pattern out inside the adult space of our multi-purpose room. One half of this room is the kiddos' playroom, while the other half was supposed to be my sewing space in its entirety. And then cue COVID and a few e-commerce businesses. Well, you get the picture. So since it has this limited space, I try to cut this out on the kiddo side, but with the kiddos home, I quickly wave my white flag and wait until the next day to cut these pieces out.
Last year I thought about how things can come around just like that if everyone is here to celebrate one day. We have our ups and downs, but when there's love there's always a way, and oh, this time of year we come together to celebrate.
So now on to that sewing. First, cleaning up my space, cause clean space, clean mind. And I'm giving those instructions a glance through. I like to think of instructions as suggestions, since there are so many ways to put garments together. There's these little pleats in the skirt, and I'm not exactly sure how those are going to take shape. I do remember top stitching them down on my dress back in high school, but my body has changed quite a bit since those days, babies and all, so we will have to see how that cookie crumbles. But to begin, I joined the front pieces of the dress together. That means the dress fabric will have the right sides together using plain old seams, as well as lining fabric, plain old seams. I'll have the front pieces joined together as well as those front side pieces.
This year I'll think about how I'm so lucky to have a place that I can come home to. Yes, I am on my way. We'll put our differences aside and just enjoy this moment of peace and love and happiness. We come together to celebrate.
Joining those front side pieces can be a little tricky to know where to begin with that whole curve of the princess theme, but the pattern gives a little triangle. So I mark that triangle with a little clip mark and then line up those clip marks, and it's just an easy way to join the pieces together. And after I join those seams, I clip the curves around those princess seams and give all the seams a good ironing, pressing everything down. Now an ironing ham can be helpful here when dealing with the curves around the princess seams. And this is the biggest lesson I have learned from making so many dresses for myself. Seriously, I have made hundreds, not recently, but you know. The biggest lesson is to try it on. Seriously, as you are making it, try the sucker on. So when you get to like a complete given step, in this case the front of the dress, try it on. Make sure you're on the right track. It is so much easier to, kind of alter as you go than end up with the dress at the very end complete that is all wrong, right? So you want to see at this point, I'm seeing where like the center front seam is lining up, seeing where those princess seams are lining, seeing how those curves are fitting, seeing where the side seams are landing. You get the drift. So after this first fitting, I took some up at the center front seam. Now here is something new. I have only done a built-in bra for my wedding dress, but I really like the idea of trying to incorporate more of them. Just one less thing, not having to worry about those stupid shoulder straps, especially designs like this dress, which is intended to be a little off the shoulder. So yeah, cross your fingers that this works out. After figuring out where those little cups should go, I stitched them down on the wrong side of the lining. That way only the stitching will show from the lining side, so the cups will be sandwiched between the lining and the garment fabric. Make sense? Alrighty, so on to those skirts and pleats in the skirts. Now, these are a little funny. They start within the fabric panel, so it's not like under a seam, like under a waist seam or something at the top of the fabric. I am rereading those instructions, and after feeling like I've got some understanding, I start to transfer the placement of everything. I use a heat-activated pen to transfer the marks, these marks being the start of the pleat, those stitching lines, the end of the pleat, all of that jazz. And then I secure those marks with some thread. Now I know I'm going to be ironing around these things and the heat-activated pen will disappear in the process, so marking with thread may seem like a huge time-consuming process, but it's actually quite simple and fast. So I put the top of the pleat together, giving that an ironing and seeing how things are laying together. I'm not really thrilled with it, so I keep playing around trying to figure it out. I decided to base each side of the pleat like the instructions suggest. So I'm sewing about 1/16 of an inch from the folded edge using a longer stitch length. Then I place those pleated edges on top and stitch along that stitching line marked by the pattern. But after trying this on, I am reconsidering the whole pleat idea since, well, I don't think it's a very flattering look for me anymore. It kind of emphasizes my whole ab separation issue, and these days I get enough folks congratulating me on being pregnant without wearing unflattering clothing. So, scratch that idea. Ironing out that idea and moving on to putting together the back of the dress. While the pattern suggests to put the zipper in a side seam, I'd rather not. So instead, I'm going to have the zipper down the center back. This means I'm joining the center back pieces to that side piece. But that's all she wrote or sewed for this day. Let me tell you, I did not feel like sewing today. I am editing through Bronco photos. My husband started a Bronco business since he's been designing BYOD rails and whatnot for Ford's new release of the Bronco. And lucky me, I get to handle the photos and whatnot. Sure, there's worse things, and I am grateful, but also there are times I'd rather sit on my eyeballs. So I'm trying to focus and get her done. Coffee, music, fire, calling on all the motivators this morning. Once I'm done with this session, I don't feel like doing much of anything, but I know I could have a good sewing time if I could just get those actions into motion. So that's what I do. I come to my sewing place, I turn on my iron, I turn on my lamp, and there you go, that's all it takes. Actions are in motion, and now I'm getting excited about sewing. Folks have asked me about motivation, and I know it might seem like I'm oversimplifying things, but at least for me, the key is to not let your mind talk yourself out of it. Get the actions in motion. Just kind of get into like a little zombie, walk into your sewing area and turn on the machine, and then your mind will suddenly follow. suddenly that whole I don't feel like it feeling fades away. Anywho, so I'm joining the center back of the other side panel to that side panel of the back and doing the same thing for the lining of the dress as well. Pockets. Yes, pockets. I am a firm believer that all dresses, with very, very few exceptions, should have pockets. And generally, I stick with inseam pockets. Inseam pockets are fairly simple, and they're hidden, which is nice. So, put the pockets right sides together with your dress, making sure to place it so it'll be comfy with your arm length. You don't want it too high or too low, and just right, a Goldilocks pocket, right? And then stitch the two together. Fold that pocket over, keeping that seam together, and press it. So we're not separating the seam here, we're just pressing the whole thing to one side. Then a cherry on top would be to stitch that pocket in place like a little top stitch action. It just gives a polished edge. The little things in life. So once I've got all the pockets in place, then I join the side seams of the dress. The path of this seam starts at the top of the side seam, goes down the dress, sewing just inside the seam of that pocket. Like just inside, okay? Then going about 1/4 of an inch below the top of that pocket, sewing across the pocket, and then around that curve. I like to keep the seam allowance at the bottom of the pocket a good 1/2 inch or more for strength. And then backstitch a little bit before turning the corner. Again, just outside the pocket seams you want to go. And then that way, just outside the pocket seams gives you a nice transition, all right? And then you just want to sew down the rest of that side seam. So back to the fitting room, and I just discovered that those arms eyes are coming up a little too close for comfort. So I just cut them down a bit. I've also got about 3 inches of extra fabric around the dress. Thankfully, the side seams are where they should be, so I don't need to mess with those suckers, which is really great since I just installed side seam pockets. Oh.
The wonders of life got the prettiest side for everyone to enjoy. Standing up close by the Christmas tree, glimmering light, I am right where I wanna be. I will be home for a couple of days, wander around with you. You and me in the cold, thought it'd never be true. Wherever I go, I got you. Oh, I have stopped running, there is no way trying. You better loosen your belts. Drinking hot wine by the fire, don't care of anything else. It's Christmas and some kind of love, my friend. I pray it will never end. Do you like to be here too? It's Christmas and outside snow's glistening. It's just you and me tonight. I'll spend all this Christmas with you.
So after I made those adjustments, I am back to the fitting room to see how things are fitting now. I am much happier with the fit through my chest and waist area, but I think a smidgen needs to be taken out of the inner part of the strap. Basically, my shoulder slope is not the same as the patterns, but that was an easy fix, and it is an important fix. Straps not fitting well can ruin your experience while wearing the dress, constantly tugging things back into place, and basically the dress starts wearing you instead of you wearing the dress. Now that I have the straps fitting better, I can finish up the straps. So I pull the strap through the dress so I can stitch that little section down. Kinda neat, right? Sure, this needs a good pressing, but everything is all together and it was done entirely on the machine. Kinda neat, right? Good morning, sunshine. We are going to finish up this dress today. Really exciting. So I give yesterday's work a good pressing, and now it's back to the fitting room to figure out where to place that zipper. I have been using this system for ages, and it's worked really well for me as a solo sewer. Say that 10 times fast. I mean, not like there's a zipper fitter friend floating around my house, you know, and my husband, well, I am better off doing this method. So it's a kind of like a 3-step process. So the first step is I pin the dress together, and once the fit is how I like it, then I'm ready for step number 2. So I'm taking those pins and transferring them to each side of the zipper, each side of the dress, right? This means the dress will no longer be pinned in place, and that allows me to do the next step. Step 3 is kind of taking where those pins are on each side of the dress and placing them back together, kind of just double checking where I got them and where I want them, and that things are, you know, still fitting nicely and all of that. So from there, I use those pins as points, following that whole 2 points make a line thing, and I fold the fabric under at those pin marks and then iron between them. I am keeping the lining fabric separate from the dress fabric since the zipper is going to be sandwiched between the two. And the lining fabric gets folded about 1/8 of an inch or so beyond the dress fabric. So while I love the look and installation of an invisible zipper, they do bust after several years. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I've had every single one of them bust on me after several years. But I have not had any of these regular old zippers do me wrong yet. So that's generally what I use. I fold the top down and angle it off to the side so it'll be hidden in the stitches to come. And now it's a matter of placing that zipper, you know, in between the lining and the dress fabric, and basting things in place. I strongly recommend basting before those machine stitches. I used to dread doing zippers, but taking the mindset of kind of an art, if you will, has helped me a lot. Like, this is one of the last steps of the dress. It has a huge impact on the function of your dress, so take your time and place it right. Enjoy the process for what it is. Enjoy that you've made a dress from start to finish, and remind yourself that you want wearing it to be an enjoyable process. So don't rush through that zipper. That mindset has made placing zippers kind of a therapeutic art form, if that makes sense. So I finish up the back seam, keeping the lining and dress fabric separate. Finally, last but not least, the hem. Once I get the hem sewn down, we've got ourselves a Christmas dress that can transition nicely to the springtime. Check out the other videos in this Christmas series. There is plenty of time left to sew up your creations. If you have any questions, please put them down in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them. And as always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and I hope to catch y'all next time.